In the rolling hills of Andalusia, Santiago, a young shepherd, found his joy in the simplicity of life. Every day, he walked with his flock across the countryside, stopping at familiar pastures, sleeping under the stars, and listening to the wind. His sheep depended on him, and in turn, he relied on them for purpose and companionship. Yet, despite this mutual bond and the rhythm of his days, Santiago often felt a quiet yearning, a sense that his life was meant for something beyond the hills and valleys he knew so well. Santiago was not an ordinary shepherd. Unlike many in his village, he could read, having once been destined for the priesthood. His parents, simple farmers, had saved tirelessly to send him to seminary, hoping he would find a higher calling. But the rigid doctrines and enclosed walls of religious life stifled him. What Santiago craved was freedom and the open world, which led him to choose the life of a shepherd. Though this decision disappointed his father, Santiago never regretted it. His books and the ever-changing landscapes of Andalusia became his sanctuary, and his heart carried dreams too vast for any one place. Among these dreams was one that visited him repeatedly, vivid and mysterious. It always began the same: Santiago dozing under the branches of a sprawling sycamore tree growing in the ruins of an old church. In the dream, a child appeared and played with his flock before taking his hand and leading him to the Egyptian pyramids. There, the child would point to a spot in the sand, promising, "Here lies your treasure." Each time Santiago reached out to uncover the treasure, he would awaken, his heart pounding, the image of the pyramids lingering in his mind. Initially, Santiago dismissed the dream as a passing fancy, but its persistence began to trouble him. He found himself wondering if it was a message, a sign that he was meant for more than tending sheep. Despite his doubts, the dream unsettled him enough to seek counsel. One day, while walking through a nearby town, Santiago visited a gypsy fortune-teller. Her home was small and cluttered with objects that seemed to vibrate with mystery: candles, crystals, and faded tapestries. The gypsy, a sharp-eyed woman with a knowing smile, listened as Santiago described his recurring dream. Her response was unexpected. She believed him. "Dreams are the language of God," she said, leaning forward, "and he speaks to us through omens." She explained that Santiago's dream was not merely a figment of his imagination, but a true vision of his destiny. She urged him to follow its call and travel to Egypt, where the treasure awaited him. Her belief in the dream was unnerving. As was her request for payment, she demanded 1/10 of the treasure if Santiago found it. Leaving her home, Santiago felt both intrigued and wary. Could his dream truly be a message, or was the gypsy merely trying to exploit him? As Santiago mulled over her words, he encountered an old man sitting on a bench in the marketplace. The man wore a simple yet regal cloak and carried a mysterious air of authority. Introducing himself as Melchizedek, the king of Salem, the old man revealed a startling amount of knowledge about Santiago, including his dream and the hesitations in his heart. Melchizedek spoke of a powerful concept called the personal legend, the unique purpose each person is born to fulfill. "When you want something," he said with conviction, "all the universe conspires in helping you achieve it." Melchizedek explained that many people abandon their personal legends due to fear or complacency. He warned Santiago that the pursuit of one's destiny required courage and faith. As a gesture of guidance, Melchizedek gave Santiago 2 stones, Urim and Thummim, tools for interpreting omens. "Use these only when your heart falters," he he advised. The rest of the time, trust yourself. The old man's words stirred something deep within Santiago. Though part of him was reluctant to leave behind the life he had built as a shepherd, the call of his dream grew louder. For years, Santiago had imagined traveling to distant lands and experiencing the vastness of the world. Now, the possibility of treasure, both literal and metaphorical, ignited a fire within him. After much deliberation, Santiago made the bold decision to sell his flock, using the money to begin his journey to Egypt. Before leaving, Santiago visited his father one last time. Though his father had once hoped Santiago would become a priest, he now saw the determination in his son's eyes. Placing his hands on Santiago's shoulders, he gave his blessing, along with 3 ancient gold coins saved for emergencies. The world is vast and full of wonders, his father said quietly. Go, my son, and discover it. With the gold coins in his pocket, the stones from Melchizedek in his hand, and the weight of his dream pressing against his heart, Santiago set off on his journey. His first destination was Tangier, a port city in North Africa where the exotic world of the desert awaited him. As the ship departed, Santiago watched Andalusia fade into the horizon. Though uncertainty loomed ahead, he felt the stirrings of something extraordinary, a sense that his life was truly beginning. Santiago's journey to Tangier began with excitement and trepidation. As the ship docked, he was greeted by the vibrant chaos of the bustling port city. Tangier was unlike anything he had ever experienced. The streets were alive with merchants selling colorful fabrics, exotic spices, and intricate wares, their voices blending into a symphony of unfamiliar languages. The air was thick with the aroma of incense and the sounds of clinking coins and bartering. The world felt vast and new, full of endless possibilities. However, Santiago quickly discovered the harsh realities of stepping into the unknown. With the gold coins his father had given him, he sought to exchange currency to continue his journey. In a crowded cafe, a friendly young man offered to help him. Santiago, naive and trusting, handed the man his money, believing him to be a kind stranger. Moments later, the man vanished into the throng of the market, taking all of Santiago's savings with him. Devastated and penniless in a foreign land, Santiago felt a crushing sense of defeat. He had abandoned his sheep, his familiar life, and the comfort of Andalusia, only to be left with nothing. The dream of treasure in Egypt now seemed like a foolish fantasy. Stranded and alone, he spent the night in a marketplace, shivering from the cold and his sense of despair. As dawn broke, Santiago realized that he had 2 choices: succumb to hopelessness or adapt to his circumstances. Though he felt lost, he remembered the wisdom of Melchizedek. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you achieve it. He resolved to find a way forward, even in the face of hardship. While wandering the streets in search of work, Santiago came upon a crystal shop on the edge of the city. The shop was small and dusty, with shelves lined with beautiful but neglected crystal pieces. The shopkeeper, an elderly man with weary eyes, seemed resigned to the slow decline of his business. Santiago offered to clean the shop's windows in exchange for food, believing that a clean storefront might attract more customers. The shopkeeper, though skeptical, agreed. To both their surprise, Santiago's effort paid off almost immediately. A passing traveler noticed the sparkling crystal on display and made a purchase. Encouraged, the shopkeeper decided to hire Santiago to help rejuvenate his business. Over the weeks that followed, Santiago's ingenuity and determination breathed new life into the crystal shop. He proposed innovative ideas, such as placing a display outside to draw in more customers and serving tea in crystal glasses, a novel concept that quickly gained popularity. Each new idea brought more customers, transforming the once struggling shop into a thriving enterprise. The shopkeeper, while grateful for the success, remained cautious. Unlike Santiago, he had no dreams of traveling or pursuing grand adventures. Content with his modest life, he saw Santiago's ambitions as both inspiring and risky. The two men often engaged in philosophical discussions about the nature of dreams and contentment. The shopkeeper's wisdom, born of years of quiet observation, contrasted with Santiago's youthful hunger for discovery. Yet, Santiago could not shake his longing for the treasure promised by his dream. The time Santiago spent at the crystal shop was a period of profound growth. Though he had initially sought the work out of desperation, it became a valuable education in patience, resourcefulness, and the importance of faith. He began to understand that every challenge, no matter how difficult, carried within it the seeds of opportunity. One day, while arranging the crystal, Santiago reflected on the lessons he had learned. The stones given to him by Melchizedek, Urim and Thummim, reminded him to trust in omens and the signs of the universe. Though he had been tempted to abandon his quest after the theft, the experience had taught him resilience and reinforced his belief in the importance of pursuing his personal legend. As the months passed, Santiago saved enough money to continue his journey. The success of the crystal shop gave him the financial means to move forward, but the decision to leave was bittersweet. The shopkeeper, who had grown fond of Santiago, urged him to consider the risks of chasing uncertain dreams. "Sometimes, what we have is enough," the old man said. But Santiago knew his heart would not rest if he stayed. The treasure, the pyramids, and the call of his dreams still burned within him. Before departing, he thanked the shopkeeper for his kindness and mentorship, leaving with a deep sense of gratitude and a newfound clarity about his path. The experience in Tangier marked a turning point in Santiago's journey. Though he had faced loss and hardship, he emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined. The lessons he learned from the crystal merchant and the bustling streets of Tangier became a foundation for the challenges ahead. With his savings in hand and his faith renewed, Santiago joined a caravan preparing to cross the vast Sahara Desert. The journey promised new adventures and greater trials, but Santiago felt ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. As the caravan set off, the sands of the desert stretched endlessly before him, a blank canvas waiting to be painted with the colors of his destiny. Santiago's new adventure began as he joined the caravan crossing the vast Sahara Desert, a place that seemed both endless and timeless. The desert was a harsh, unforgiving landscape, where the sun blazed overhead during the day and the cold chilled the air at night. Yet, there was a strange beauty in its stillness, a profound silence that allowed Santiago to think deeply about his journey and the lessons he had learned so far. As the caravan made its way across the desert, Santiago found himself sharing the journey with a variety of travelers, each with their own stories and purposes. There were traders, merchants, and nomads, all united by the common goal of reaching the distant oasis. Despite the desert's harsh conditions, Santiago quickly adapted to the rhythm of the caravan, learning how to care for the animals, keep watch at night, and listen to the subtle omens of the desert that spoke to his soul. In the midst of this journey, Santiago met a man who would change the course of his understanding about life and the pursuit of personal legends. The man was an Englishman, a bookish figure with an insatiable thirst for knowledge. He had been traveling the desert in search of a mysterious alchemist who, according to legend, possessed the secrets of alchemy, the art of transforming base metals into gold and discovering the elixir of life. The Englishman had spent years studying the ancient texts of alchemy, convinced that the secrets to true wisdom were hidden in the study of nature and the material world. The two men quickly struck up a friendship, with the Englishman fascinated by Santiago's experiences as a shepherd and Santiago intrigued by the Englishman's scholarly pursuits. They spent long hours talking about their respective quests. Santiago shared his dream of the treasure in Egypt and his belief that everything in life had a deeper meaning, while the Englishman spoke about his study of alchemy and his hope of finding the legendary alchemist who could help him achieve the ultimate transformation. Despite their differing paths, they both sought something greater than themselves, something that transcended the ordinary world. Through their conversations, Santiago learned that the pursuit of knowledge and wisdom was not solely an intellectual endeavor. While the Englishman sought to uncover secrets hidden in ancient texts, Santiago's journey was about experiencing life and listening to the wisdom that came from the soul and the heart. The Englishman's obsession with books and theoretical knowledge was a reminder to Santiago that true wisdom could not be found solely in the pages of books. The wisdom Santiago sought was written in the world around him, whether in the language of the wind, the flight of birds, or the patterns of the desert. One evening, while they were resting at a stop along the caravan route, the Englishman shared with Santiago a particular passage he had studied in one of his alchemical texts. It spoke of the soul of the world, an energy that connected all things and could be tapped into by those who were spiritually attuned. The Englishman was fascinated by the idea of the soul of the world, which, according to the text, could reveal the secrets of the universe to those who understood its language. Santiago, though not an intellectual, felt a deep resonance with the idea of the soul of the world. He had already begun to feel its presence in his journey, in the way the universe seemed to conspire to guide him toward his personal legend. As the caravan moved deeper into the desert, the lessons from the Englishman and the stillness of the desert allowed Santiago to reflect on the ways in which his own life had been a preparation for this moment. The shepherd's life had taught him patience, the ability to listen to his heart, and the importance of trusting the signs that the universe provided. Each step in the desert seemed to bring him closer to understanding the true nature of his journey. Despite the oppressive heat and the many days of travel, Santiago's spirit remained high. He often found himself thinking about the crystal merchant and his teachings. The merchant had taught him that success often came from making small, incremental changes, and Santiago applied this philosophy to the caravan's journey. He learned to adapt, to use the wisdom of those around him, and to stay open to the flow of life's experiences. Along the way, Santiago also began to understand the importance of the present moment. The desert, in all its vastness and emptiness, taught him that life was not about the destination but about the journey itself. He realized that he had been too focused on the treasure and had failed to fully appreciate the beauty of the desert and the lessons that the universe was offering him in each moment. As the days passed, Santiago's understanding of the soul of the world deepened. He began to feel a connection with the desert itself, sensing that everything around him, the wind, the sand, the birds flying overhead, was part of a greater whole. This realization filled him with a profound sense of peace and certainty. He knew that his journey was more than just about finding treasure, It was about becoming one with the universe, understanding its rhythms, and discovering his place in the world. The Englishman, for all his intellectual pursuits, seemed to miss the deeper lessons that were unfolding around them. While Santiago was learning to listen to the language of the desert and the signs from the universe, the Englishman was too focused on his books and the search for the alchemist. Despite this, Santiago respected the Englishman's dedication and intellect, but he could not help but feel that the answers the Englishman sought were already available to him in the present moment, in the simplicity of his own heart. One evening, as the caravan made camp near an oasis, Santiago had a moment of revelation. He was walking alone by the water when he saw a group of desert birds flying overhead in perfect formation. The sight was beautiful, and in that instant, Santiago understood that the birds were a symbol of the soul of the world. They moved as one, each bird an individual yet part of the greater whole. The realization struck him deeply. All things were connected, and the treasure he sought was not just a material object, but an understanding of this connection and the spiritual wisdom that lay beneath the surface of the physical world. In the days that followed, Santiago's connection to the desert and the people around him grew stronger. He realized that every person he encountered had something to teach him, whether it was through their actions, their words, or simply their presence. The journey was not just about finding a physical treasure, it was about discovering the treasures within himself, his courage, his wisdom, and his connection to the universe. The desert, the caravan, the Englishman, and the lessons they had all brought him had transformed Santiago. He was no longer just a shepherd with a dream of treasure. He was a man who had begun to understand the deeper mysteries of life and the power of the soul of the world. After days of travel, the caravan finally reached the oasis, a lush, vibrant sanctuary in the heart of the desert. Surrounded by towering palm trees and cool, flowing water, the oasis seemed like a mirage, a place of life and comfort amid the endless sea of sand. The air was sweet and filled with the sound of birds and the rustling of leaves, a stark contrast to the harsh desert environment they had crossed. For Santiago, the oasis represented a moment of peace, a temporary respite from the exhausting journey that had led him through such trials. The moment he arrived, Santiago felt a sense of both relief and awe. He marveled at the oasis's beauty and tranquility, feeling as though he had stumbled upon a sacred place. As he rested and acclimated to his new surroundings, he reflected on his journey so far. The desert had been grueling, and the challenges he had faced seemed, in hindsight, like tests of his resolve, his patience, and his willingness to listen to the signs of the universe. Yet, Santiago knew that his quest for treasure was not over, and the oasis, with its life-giving water, marked another chapter in his spiritual transformation. Santiago spent several days at the oasis, mingling with the people who lived there. The oasis was home to a thriving community of traders, nomads, and warriors, all of whom sought shelter from the harshness of the desert. Yet, it was not the bustling activity of the market or the gathering of travelers that caught Santiago's attention. It was the presence of Fatima, a woman who embodied the beauty and wisdom of the desert itself. Santiago first saw Fatima while walking by the edge of the oasis. She was drawing water from a well, her graceful movements seeming to mirror the gentle flow of the water itself. Her dark eyes held an enigmatic depth, and Santiago felt an immediate and powerful attraction to her. In that moment, he realized that he had found something more precious than the material treasure he had sought for so long. Fatima was the treasure he had been searching for all along. Though they spoke little at first, a deep, Silent understanding passed between them. Fatima, too, recognized the spark in Santiago's eyes, the yearning for something more, the quest for wisdom and deeper meaning. Their brief interactions grew into conversations, and Santiago found himself falling in love with her. But this love was not just a fleeting passion, it was something deeper, a connection that transcended time and place. Fatima seemed to understand him in ways that no one else had, and Santiago felt a profound sense of peace in her presence. Yet, as the days passed, Santiago's love for Fatima became intertwined with his fear. He knew that his journey was far from over, and the treasure he sought, his personal legend, still awaited him. The voice of doubt whispered in his mind, "If I stay here with Fatima, I will never find the treasure. I will never fulfill my destiny." And yet, the pull of his love for her was undeniable. Santiago found himself torn between the dream of treasure and the desire to be with Fatima, whom he now saw as his heart's true companion. One evening, as they sat together by the oasis under the vast starry sky, Fatima spoke with surprising wisdom. She told Santiago that love was not a reason to hold him back from pursuing his personal legend. Rather, it was something that should inspire him to follow his path. "If you love me," she said, her voice gentle yet firm, "you must follow your dream. You must follow your personal legend, because in doing so, you will find the truest form of love." True love does not mean holding someone back from their destiny, it means allowing them to become the person they are meant to be. Fatima's words struck Santiago like a lightning bolt. She understood something profound that he had not yet fully grasped, that true love is not possessive, but rather selfless. Her love for him was not about holding him back from his journey, it was about encouraging him to become the person he was meant to be. Santiago realized that his love for her was not a reason to abandon his quest, but a reason to pursue it with even more determination. Despite this realization, Santiago's heart remained torn. He had come to care deeply for Fatima, and the thought of leaving her was painful. But he also knew that his journey had led him here for a reason, and that he could not let fear or attachment keep him from discovering the deeper truths of his life. The treasure he sought was not just a material object, it was the wisdom that lay in understanding the interconnectedness of all things, and the role he played in the grand tapestry of the universe. The next day, as Santiago walked through the oasis, he encountered an old man who had lived in the desert for many years. The man, wise and weathered by the harsh conditions of the land, spoke to Santiago about the true nature of love. "Love is not something that can be held or possessed," the old man said. "It is a force that flows through all things. To truly love, you must first learn to love yourself, to trust in your own path and purpose." Santiago listened intently, feeling that the old man's words were guiding him toward a deeper understanding of his journey. He had thought that love was something that could be possessed, something that could keep him anchored to a particular place. But now he realized that love was a force, a current that moved through the universe, uniting everything in a shared purpose. In order to experience true love, he needed to honor his own path, his own journey, and his own personal legend. With this newfound clarity, Santiago made the difficult decision to continue his journey. He knew that he could not remain at the oasis, no matter how much he loved Fatima. He would return to her one day, once he had completed his quest, and in doing so, he would bring her the fulfillment of the love that they shared. Before he left, Fatima gave him a gift, an offering of her love, symbolized by a simple yet powerful gesture. She gave him a kiss and whispered, "Go, and may the desert show you the way." With those words, Santiago knew that his love for Fatima would remain with him as he ventured deeper into the unknown, guiding him and sustaining him on his path. As Santiago continued his journey, he felt a sense of peace within himself. He had come to understand that love, like the universe, was infinite and could not be constrained by fear or attachment. Love was the force that propelled him forward, not the thing that held him back. With Fatima's blessing and the wisdom of the desert in his heart, Santiago pressed on toward his destiny, ready to face whatever challenges the universe had in store for him. Santiago's journey continued, with the wisdom of Fatima and the desert guiding his every step. As he traveled through the vast landscape, he could not shake the feeling that his quest was about to take a new turn. It was clear that the lessons he had learned so far, whether from the crystal merchant, the Englishman, or Fatima, had all been leading him toward a singular truth. The universe was conspiring to help him achieve his personal legend, but he had to remain patient, trust in his own path, and most importantly, be open to the signs that the universe sent his way. After leaving the oasis and parting with Fatima, Santiago continued on his journey, feeling a deep connection to the desert and to the greater mysteries of the world. But as he ventured deeper into the arid land, a new sense of purpose began to well up inside him. It was during this time that he first encountered the Alchemist, a powerful figure who would change the course of his life. The Alchemist was a mysterious figure, known for his ability to transform base metals into gold and his profound wisdom. Santiago met him at the oasis, a place where people gathered in search of answers and guidance. When Santiago first spoke with the Alchemist, he was struck by the man's serenity and sense of inner peace. The Alchemist was not only a master of the material world, but also a profound spiritual teacher who had long understood the soul of the world, the energy that connects all things in the universe. Upon meeting Santiago, the Alchemist immediately recognized the young man's thirst for wisdom, and he agreed to guide him further on his journey. Yet, Santiago had no idea how profound and transformative this encounter would be. The Alchemist spoke to Santiago about the concept of the language of the world, the idea that everything in existence has a language, a deeper meaning that can be understood by those who are attuned to it. This language was not one of words, but of energy, movement, and intention. The soul of the world could be understood by those who were in harmony with its rhythms and who could read the signs and omens it presented. The Alchemist's teachings were complex and difficult for Santiago to fully grasp at first, but over time, he began to understand that true alchemy was not about turning metals into gold. It was about transforming oneself, refining one's soul to reach its highest potential. Santiago learned that the process of alchemy involved not just physical change, but spiritual and emotional transformation. The gold the alchemist sought was not material wealth, but the attainment of spiritual enlightenment and mastery over the soul. As the days passed, Santiago's understanding of the alchemist's teachings grew. He learned that the soul of the world, which connected all things, could be accessed by those who understood its language. Santiago was told that he had to learn to listen to the world around him, the desert, the wind, the birds, the people, and hear the deeper messages that were being conveyed through these natural phenomena. In a way, the world was speaking to him, and he needed to learn to interpret its signs and omens. The alchemist also spoke to Santiago about the master work, the ultimate goal of the alchemist's journey. To achieve this work, one had to master the elements earth, wind, fire, and water and become one with the soul of the world. This was no easy task, and the alchemist warned Santiago that it required great dedication, courage, and faith. The master work was the true alchemy, the transformation of the self into something greater, a union with the divine energy that permeates all things. As Santiago's journey with the alchemist continued, he began to experience his own transformation. He learned to look beyond appearances, to understand that everything in the universe is interconnected, and that by aligning with the forces of nature, he could tap into the deeper wisdom of the world. The alchemist also taught him the importance of stillness and silence. In the vastness of the desert, Santiago realized that the answers he sought were not always found in external actions or in the loud voices of others. Sometimes, they could only be found in the quiet moments of introspection, when he could truly listen to his heart and soul. Santiago's understanding of love deepened as well. He had learned from Fatima that love was not about attachment, but about freedom and selflessness. Love, Santiago now understood, was a force that connected all things in the universe. It was not something that could be held or controlled, but something that flowed through everything, binding the world together in an intricate web of energy. The love he had for Fatima was not separate from his quest, it was a part of the same cosmic energy that guided him toward his personal legend. The alchemist's teachings were not just about understanding the soul of the world, but also about mastering the language of the universe. This language was expressed through signs, omens, and feelings. By listening to his intuition, Santiago could decode the messages the world sent him. He realized that every step of his journey had been guided by the signs of the universe, from the recurring dreams that had started his journey to the encounters with the various characters who had helped him along the way. Each event, each person he had met, had been part of a larger plan, part of the grand design of the universe to help him realize his destiny. In time, the alchemist led Santiago to a new stage of his journey, the final leg of his quest, where he would face his ultimate challenge. It was in this final trial that Santiago would have to prove his mastery over the elements and fully understand the language of the soul of the world. As they traveled deeper into the desert, Santiago was faced with numerous obstacles, each of which tested his patience, courage, and faith. One of the most significant trials came when Santiago was forced to confront his own fear. During a moment of intense spiritual testing, Santiago had to confront the possibility of failure, of never finding the treasure. He was faced with the question, was it worth continuing on this journey, knowing that he might never achieve his goal? The alchemist guided him through this moment, showing him that fear was a natural part of the process. Fear, the alchemist said, was an illusion, an obstacle that could be overcome by those who had mastered their inner selves. Santiago realized that in order to achieve his personal legend, he had to let go of his fear and embrace the unknown. The treasure he sought was not just a physical object, but a spiritual realization. The true treasure was the wisdom, courage, and strength he had gained through his journey, the transformation he had undergone, and the connection he had forged with the universe. The time had come for Santiago to face the ultimate test of his journey. With the alchemist's teachings fresh in his mind and his understanding of the soul of the world deepening, Santiago found himself standing on the edge of a final, crucial challenge. As they traveled deeper into the desert, the alchemist, having seen Santiago's growth, told him that he was ready. It was time to prove that Santiago had mastered the lessons he had learned along the way, lessons of patience, faith, self-discipline, and love. Santiago, though filled with both anticipation and dread, knew that he had reached the turning point of his quest. The treasure that he had longed for, that had guided him across continents was within his reach. But before he could claim it, Santiago had to face his own fears, doubts, and uncertainties. The desert was not just an external landscape, it was a reflection of his inner world. The trials he faced would no longer be about physical obstacles. They were spiritual tests designed to reveal the true nature of his soul. The first of these trials came when Santiago and the alchemist were captured by a group of tribal warriors. The tribe, not trusting outsiders, took them prisoner and threatened to kill them unless they could prove their worth. The alchemist, who had already demonstrated his ability to transform himself and his surroundings through his mastery of the elements, calmly told Santiago that they needed to face this trial with composure. The desert, he explained, was always testing them. And so, Santiago was forced to confront his own fear of death. In this intense moment, Santiago drew upon the wisdom he had gained from the desert. He understood that fear was an illusion, a barrier created by the mind to keep him from embracing the fullness of his power. The alchemist's teachings had prepared him for this very moment, and with that understanding, Santiago knew exactly what he had to do. He told the tribal warriors that he had the ability to transform himself into the wind, and with that declaration, he began to focus on the elements around him. In a moment of deep connection with the forces of nature, Santiago invoked the power of the desert's wind, calling upon it to carry him. He was not just fighting for his life, he was proving that he had learned the language of the world, the language of the elements. As he did so, the air around him began to stir, the winds gathering strength. The tribal warriors, witnessing this miraculous event, were so awestruck that they released him and the alchemist, allowing them to continue their journey. Santiago had demonstrated the power of his faith and the mastery of his own spirit. After this dramatic encounter, Santiago continued his journey with renewed confidence. But even as he overcame these obstacles, the thought of the treasure still loomed in his mind. He knew he was close, but he also knew that the true treasure was not merely a chest of gold. It was something far deeper, an understanding of the interconnectedness of all things, a realization of his place in the grand design of the universe. As the days passed, Santiago and the alchemist journeyed toward the pyramids of Egypt, where Santiago had been guided in his recurring dream. But in the final stretch of their journey, the true nature of Santiago's quest was revealed to him in a profound and transformative way. One night, as they camped under the stars, the alchemist turned to Santiago and asked him a question that would change everything. "What is your personal legend, Santiago?" This question was not a new one, but this time it was asked with the full weight of everything Santiago had learned. It was a moment of profound clarity, where Santiago realized that the treasure he sought was not something external, it was the wisdom he had gained through his journey, the connection he had made with the soul of the world. Santiago finally understood that the treasure was not hidden in the sands of Egypt, but within himself. The journey itself had been the treasure, and the wisdom he had gathered, the love he had experienced, and the lessons of the world had all been part of the treasure he sought. It was his spiritual transformation, the alchemy of his soul, that had led him to his true purpose. When Santiago finally reached the pyramids, he dug in the sand, following the instructions of his dream. But to his surprise, he found nothing. No chest of gold, no material riches. Instead, he was confronted with a startling realization. His journey had led him to understand the deeper truths of existence, and in this final act of digging, he unearthed a hidden treasure not in the form of gold, but in the form of self-awareness and spiritual awakening. The treasure, he realized, was not an object. It was the knowledge that he had achieved his personal legend, that he had become the person he was meant to be, and that he was connected to the universe in ways he had never imagined. But Santiago did not stop there. As he began to return to the place where his journey had started, he met a traveler who revealed that he had dreamed of a treasure buried beneath a sycamore tree in Spain, the very tree under which Santiago had once slept as a shepherd. The traveler's words confirmed what Santiago had learned. The treasure had always been where he started, in the simple life he had left behind. All his travels, all his experiences, had been a means of discovering that the wisdom, love, and peace he sought were already within him, waiting to be recognized. Santiago's return to the sycamore tree symbolized his full transformation. The treasure, it seemed, had always been there, not in a distant land, but within the self. By embarking on his personal legend, he had uncovered the truth that the path to fulfillment and peace is not found in external circumstances, but in understanding the language of the world and following one's heart. He had discovered that love, wisdom, and personal growth are the real treasures of life, and that the universe conspires to help those who are brave enough to pursue their dreams. Santiago's final lesson was that the treasure he had sought was not a destination but a journey of self-discovery. The universe had not failed him, nor had it tricked him. Instead, it had led him to a deeper understanding of the world, the connections between all things, and the boundless love that flows through existence. Santiago understood now that he was not just an individual in search of a treasure. He was a part of the world, a part of a much larger whole, and in the process of finding his personal legend, he had discovered his true place in the universe. Throughout Santiago's journey, he was guided by various figures who imparted wisdom to him, each one playing a role in shaping his understanding of the world. The crystal merchant taught him the importance of pursuing one's dreams, even in the face of obstacles. The Englishman showed him the value of knowledge and the pursuit of higher learning. The alchemist, however, had been the most profound guide, teaching Santiago the deep spiritual truths of the universe. As Santiago contemplates the lessons he has learned, he realizes that each of these mentors has contributed to his growth in unique ways. The crystal merchant had shown him how following one's passion could bring both fulfillment and material success. The Englishman had helped him understand that learning is essential for personal transformation. But it was the alchemist who had guided Santiago to the final, profound realization that the soul of the world is accessible to anyone who listens to their heart. The alchemist's wisdom, the importance of listening to the omens, the idea of the maktub, that which is written, and the recognition that everything is interconnected has stayed with Santiago. The alchemist's teachings continue to resonate in his life, influencing the way Santiago lives, loves, and views the world. Santiago now realizes that the alchemist had not been there to give him all the answers, but to help him discover the answers within himself.